bunch of dynamic options for this class. For example, if something is true, in that case, change the text to green 500. And you can see that now it works. So technically, yes, you could have done this using template literals, but trust me, we're going to have a bunch of these things, right? There will be if something is equal to, I don't know, maybe, right? And basically a bunch of these options, each of them having their own class name, and it just gets so much easier to work with CN instead of template literals. Right, so I just wanted to quickly explain to you what the CN is. Perfect. So right now, that's the only thing that ShadCN added. But what it actually added is kind of its config and its registry. So what I like to do now is I like to add all ShadCN components. So let's shut down the app for now. And let's go ahead and do npx ShadCN 3.3.1 add --all. So instead of adding individual components, I'm going to add all of them. Chances are we are not going to use them all, and you can definitely clean this up later. The reason I like to add all of them is A, you can explore and play around with all of them, and B, I kind of forget the ShadCN version during my tutorials, so it's just kind of a hassle having to remember the version every time I want to add a component and have to worry if I entered an incorrect version. So this way, in the beginning of the tutorial, we just added all components. Here they are, and we will be able to use them. So go ahead and do npm run dev, and now inside of your source file, you will see a new components and then UI folder. And inside of that UI folder, you will see all the components that we will be able to use. And you will also find a hooks folder, which has the use mobile hook. And this hook is simply used, I think maybe in the sidebar. Let's see, was I correct? It is use is mobile. There we go. So yeah, it basically created some hooks as well. So you should have 60 new changes if you are using any source control to track that. So let's go ahead and just add a simple one to see this work. So I'm going to go ahead and very simply import button from components UI button, and I will render a button here. And let's go ahead and say, click me. Let me go ahead and give this a class name, height full, minimum height of screen, minimum width screen, flex item center, and justify center. Let's refresh this. Every time you restart your Node.js server, make sure you hit refresh. There we go. So we have a nice button here. So what's the catch with ShadCN? How is this different from Material UI or anything like that? Well, here's the thing that I personally like the most. If I want to modify this button, I could just add a class name and modify it the way I like. But I can also do this. I can literally go inside of source, components, button, and I can see the entire code inside. So for example, inside of my root page here, I have a variant prop, and you can see that it auto-completes the type safety, for example, outline. What if I don't want to call it outline? What if I want to call this border? Usually, you'd have no way of changing that within Material UI or something like that. But in here, you have the code. You own the code. So if I want to go inside of the button, find the button variants, find outline, and change this to border, you can see that immediately type safety is broken because now it will recommend border. And there we go. Works again. So I will bring this back to outline now, simply because that is the correct and the better name. I was just demonstrating, right? But the cool thing is you can add anything here. You can add new sizes. You can modify existing sizes. You can change the roundedness. You can change the shadows. Whatever you like or don't like. It's almost like a perfect foundation. Not almost. It is the perfect foundation for building your own component system. And that's what we will be doing in this tutorial. We will be making our own component library with the design that matches our entire app. And the easiest way to do that is with ShadCN UI. And it is extremely well supported within the Next.js environment. Amazing. So I think this kind of is a very good start. I would recommend that you maybe import some more components here. Perhaps go to ShadCN UI here, head inside of the components, and just, play around. There's a bunch of them here. For example, the calendar. Well, I mean, it makes no sense for me to go individually into all of them, but yes, there is a very good amount of these components. And when you see these blue buttons, it means they are new components. For example, field is completely new. Or let's go ahead and look at empty. We now have empty states that we can do using ShadCN UI, which is exactly the field that we actually will be using in this tutorial. All right, cool. So we just added ShadCN UI. We have that ready. And now let's go ahead and create a GitHub repository. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and head to github.com and create a repository. So after you went to GitHub, you will see a little plus button here and click New Repository. And then in here, let's go ahead and call this, I'm going to call it Nodebase like that. I will set this to private and I won't add anything else, right? And let's just go ahead and click Create Repository. And now in here, you have two options. The first option is create a new repository from the command line or push an existing repository from the command line. Our case is the second one. We already have a repository, it's just local. So let's go ahead and do the following. You can see we have 60 uncommitted changes here. And I want you to be careful now. So if you're using Visual Studio Code, you can use this interface to commit. But in case you aren't, you can use git commit commands, right? I think it's a little bit easier to follow the tutorial when I do it visually. So go ahead and click inside of the source control here and find the plus button, which says stage all changes. Be very careful not to accidentally click the discard all changes, right? Make sure you click stage all changes. And once you've staged all changes, what I like to do here is I like to name my messages after my video chapters. Obviously, this is not how you would do it in production. In production, you would actually describe what you did. But in my case, I call this chapter 01 setup. So my commit message is 01 setup. And I will then click commit. Now, the problem is this is only committed locally. So this doesn't exist in this GitHub repository. But only once you've done that, once you have no committed changes, can you go ahead and copy these 3 lines from the new repository you've just created. Let's shut down our app here. You can see how I have 0 uncommitted changes, and I will very simply run those 3 commands right here. So let's go ahead and add them. There we go. Go ahead back here and refresh. And here we have our project 01 setup, and we have another commit from the initial create next app. Perfect. So inside of our source folder, you can see we have components and everything we did during the setup chapter, which is add all of those components. Amazing. Great. I'm very satisfied with this. I believe that marks the end of this chapter. Feel free to play around with the components. In the next chapter, we're going to start exploring the layout and some more things about this project. Amazing job, and see you in the next chapter.